What's up, everybody? I am Justin Baldoni, and this is my amazing, wonderful wife, Emily. And welcome to Man Enough Mondays, where every week we talk about not just how we can become better men, but how we can become better humans. And for me in particular, that doesn't happen without this lovely lady. So welcome to the very first episode of Man Enough Couples Edition. And it is a crazy, wild time to be alive right now, let alone shooting a show like this. And I think our partners are so important in our development. And that's why I'm so happy. We are so happy to welcome one of the most amazing couples, Karamo, Ian. What's up?
What's going on?
Hi, guys.
Hey! How are you doing?
You guys. Oh
I didn't know that this was the inaugural.
This is the first one ever. I need to put my glasses on now. Now I'm feeling left out. And so you all know Karamo from Queer Eye, among many other things. He's a children's book author, and he's just like a motivational life coach that all of us need in our own lives. And his wonderful fiance, Ian. By the way, did you know that we've worked together?
You two have?
He is a director.
We have?
Yeah.
We have. Surprise. He's a director. And about, 10 years ago, I did an episode of Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh my God! Yes!
I was the fencing instructor.
That's amazing.
Look at what a small world!
And I was waiting to tell you until we were live because I knew, you had so many actors come through that show. But Ian is an incredible director, and he's been working behind the scenes, and we're so happy to have both of you guys here on Man Enough with us.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. But now I feel like Emily and I should have a moment. Like, we need to find out like some moment where our lives intersect.
We'll find the moment.
We'll
find it.
The moment. The moment was yesterday, but it was one-sided with her watching Queer Eye and just laughing and having so much fun with you. And
so good.
Emily, I'm gonna have to give you my cell so you can text me during your, so you can tell me what's going on. Because I like when friends text me during Queer Eye, because it really, for us, it helps us to have better interpersonal relationships with the people we're helping, because, we need to know what's also responding for the audience, because though we're helping them, we need to know like what helps the audience grow. So we're going to text so that we can laugh.
You know what else though? So you should also text him every time I'm being mean to myself, because he's going to snap me into shape probably better than you. So
I need your help there.
Sometimes I'm pretty hard on myself, and she says to me, she goes, "Stop being mean to my husband."
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And it's one of my favorite things, but I know that's very much in your world right there.
That is one of the most beautiful things that you can do, is challenging your partner when they're saying negative things about themselves or not doing what they deserve in a way that is so clear and inspirational. That's one of the first things that you get taught, is sort of like, because most people don't know, I worked in social services for 12 years before I was a social worker. And so as you're doing this, you start to learn that to challenge someone in a positive and healthy way is the best way for them to get it. He does it all the time for me, and vice versa, because it's something we can check.
But I'm gonna take that though. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, you're going to take that, you are going to take that, because at some point you are going to be husbands soon.
You know
Officially.
What? That might be an issue. I'm not going to lie to you. So let me tell you how our relationship works.
Yes.
So in our relationship, I am the person who is the heavy communicator, i.e. why I'm on Queer Eye and everything I do. So I'm always like, when are we talking about our future? When are we talking about what's next? What's going on? This Yahoo is the exact opposite. It all stays up here in his head, and he tries to process everything for hours upon hours. His knee is shaking like this underneath the table because I'm talking about, I wish y'all could see it. It's like bouncing up and down. But we literally, from our engagement to even this marriage, like now with the pandemic, so many people have had to refigure out how to structure this. And I've been like, no, we should just go to a courthouse. And he's like, well, hold on. And he has to process it all, which for me as I love you, let's do it now. It's a conflict.
I keep a lot of stuff up here.
Yeah.
But I've been getting better with his
You have been. Yeah.
Look, we're shooting this episode here together in the middle of, who knows if it's the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a social and cultural uprising where we are for the first time, I think, hopefully in the last time, but probably not, dealing with the systemic racist beginnings and origins of our country and white supremacy and the ways that we are as white people active in that. And it's also Pride Month, and some incredible things are happening. So all of those things kind of combined and compound into this episode. And of course, we're so happy to have you guys here. And I think my first question, and then I'll let you ask, because I have a lot of questions for you guys. How are you all doing? Because you actually intersectionally hit two big things happening this month, and it's also a pandemic, which we can't forget, which is also bringing up a lot of other stuff.
Right, because we've been quarantined for 3 months now, so that brings up a lot of things.
The first 2 weeks were hard.
Yeah, those first 2 weeks we were not in a good space. And I think that's the reality of a lot of people who have to, first of all, mourn the life they had before they were put in quarantine. And I mean, like, even though you're in a relationship with someone you love, and you two know this, and you have kids who you love, as parents, we all know this, you still had an ability to find some sense of freedom in being able to have a job that you could go to. There was still a sense of self that most of us lost and had to mourn. And I think in that first 2 weeks, though we did love being around each other because that was just naturally there, I was like, okay, I need for you to get on. It was like, how do I constructively say, right now you are possibly getting on my MNFing and vice versa. And so, you know, what I think was special about that is that it was about, like, first of all, you know, something that Ian does very well is that, and we do well together, and I'm curious on how you two communicate, is we only talk about one issue at a time. I think so many times couples, when they start talking about issues, they'll let other things bleed into it. Like, I need my freedom. And then I also need help with the kids. And then it's like, hold on, what are we talking about here? The kids, or is it the freedom? And so we really tried to, in that first 2 weeks, it was like, okay, I know there's some other things going on, but let's talk about what are we mourning in this moment that's causing this issue, and nothing else. And if we see it bleeding, we're like, stop.
And that is something I had to actively learn.
Yeah.
You know, because like he said, when I said, you know, I keep a lot of stuff up here. So sometimes when I do articulate, sometimes it all just comes out. And so to kind of like address what is happening in the moment and nothing else is, you know, it takes practice.
How do you two deal with it?
Their dynamic is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like kind of similar to ours.
You guys we're very much like you guys. I'm you, Ian. I'm Justin. I was like, there's a lot of talking happening right now. And I had to learn how to get out of my head and communicate what it was that I was feeling. And sometimes I didn't know what I was feeling. I just knew that I was feeling something.
She was definitely the masculine in that area. And I was far more feminine. And like, this is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? Let's talk about it. She's like,
if I was frustrated and aggravated, I was like, I need to leave. And he was like, no, come back here. We're going to sit down right now and talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
So I had so much to learn. And sometimes things come up just out of the blue. I will literally be asking about dinner, which leads to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And then suddenly we're having an argument and none of us is prepared for it. And what we've been trying to figure out is, okay, if it's getting too heated, do we need to kind of go into separate rooms and just breathe and balance ourselves? Or what we tend to do is that we dive right into it, but then it lasts for 5 hours.
Because there's kids, and we can't escape anybody.
We're defensive, and then we get through that, and then there's some crying, and then there's some of this, and it's just a journey. And I think that's something.
And it's all over a dish.
Well, that's where it's at.
It is always something that is like completely benign.
It's never about the thing.
It's never about the thing.
You guys handle it. It's never about the thing.
Yeah.
But how do you guys handle it when it kind of comes out of the blue and you haven't really been able to plan to sit down and discuss something?
Early on, you know, he'd kind of get frustrated with me because he's like, you're not saying anything. And I'm like, I'm processing this. Like, I need to, like, get my thoughts together. And he's like, well, we're talking now. And I'm like, I need to he's like,
y'all need to exchange numbers. Karamo, you and I are going to text when we're not.
Justin, I tell you, I feel so sweet with you.
He's like,
we're gonna be in an argument. I'm gonna be like, who are you texting? She's like, Ian. I'm gonna be like, well, that's so funny. I'm texting Karamo.
Okay.
Well, you know what it is? I think and I'm going to speak for you, Karamo, but I think for personalities like ours, sometimes the talking is what allows us, like the feelings almost come from the start of the talking. So it's like, it's like you're processing it in real time.
That is exactly it. How many times do I tell you that? I'm like,
Ian and we feel it. We're in it. It's in our bodies and in our minds, our hearts, and we just like wrestle with it on the inside.
Not me. It's like the minute the words come out, it's like I start processing.
Oh, that's how I feel. Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel. So great. Now we're going.
Right, but then I have received this whole stream of information that I need a second to sift through and pick apart before I express myself.
Well, hold up, Karamo. Sometimes you got to admit that you realize things you didn't even know you felt when you start talking. You're like,
100%.
You say it, and you're like, oh shit, I feel that way.
It's the funniest thing to see that happening. He's like surprising himself as he's expressing it. See this whole world unfolding that you're not even aware of.
I'm not even aware of. I'm not. It's the perfect That's why we balance each other. Because too much of like me and Karamo is we don't want that. That's why we're marrying you guys.
Yeah.
100%. If I had another me, I'd be like, no, I'm done. I need somebody who's going to be a little bit like, hold on.
And conversely, if I was with somebody who was just like me, we wouldn't be talking about anything.
How was that at the beginning of your relationship? Because I bet you guys just like dove right into communication and conversations. And what happened for us is that makes it feel kind of rocky right off the bat. Yeah. We didn't really have much of a honeymoon phase. We just dove into the work right away. And now we're so grateful for it, but it was really hard in the beginning. What was that like for you guys?
It's literally the same. It sounds like you're describing our relationship. It's really funny because we have a lot of couples nights with our friends, and it's very rare when I'm going to speak for us, but where I'm like, I feel like I'm watching the straight version of us right now. It's very weird, it's like, I don't know, I'm a little uncomfortable because I feel a little exposed, but then I'm also like, no, it was the same thing. It was very rocky, like early on. And I think that's part of what helped us to last is that we weren't afraid of the more challenging conversations that would allow us to grow. But it was also like most couples didn't have those challenging conversations. And we always not joke about it because we don't joke at one's demise, but we're always like, we know so many people in the time we've been together who have been married and divorced.
Oh, yeah.
They've met, got married, and got divorced in the time that we've been together.
And it's because they never talked about those issues. And then once you start compounding it with jobs, finances, and kids, oh my gosh.
Over.
Yeah, if you don't know how to talk about those challenging things before, it just goes.
Well, it's funny when you hear people say, oh, yeah, we've never had a fight. And I'm just like, oh, no, you better not get married. Because date for a little while longer. And what we found is people who have had the opportunity to have rocky beginnings of their relationships tend to have longer, more successful marriages because you develop the skills and the tools to push through it and to persevere. And it's all communication. It's all communication.
And wouldn't you all agree that people are afraid of growth because we call it trauma for a reason, and people look at growth as traumatic because most of the time in their lives, when they were met with moments of growth, they were also met with being scolded. They were met with not receiving an opportunity. And so now they're in a relationship that they want to be perfect, and there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. And the only thing that is triggered in those moments of growth is I'm bad. I'm not worthy. I'm not going to get what I want. And it resolves from your past. And I kind of always try to remind people that if you can understand that those moments in your past where you were growing through conversation, when you felt like you were being put down, it's because the person you were talking to didn't have the patience or emotional language to actually help you to see that growth was healthy. And for him, and I think this is true for you too, I'm aware of that. It seems like, Justin, you're aware of that. It seems, Emily, you're aware of it too, but it's because we're a little bit more aware at the beginning, we were able to go through the challenges and feel comfortable with the growth. But I'm like, I don't want anybody to stay in an unhealthy relationship if someone is calling you names, treating you bad, disrespecting you. But if they're challenging you to identify what's not allowing you to be the best version of yourself, if they're challenging you to see ways that you can compromise and be better, don't look at that as what you looked at when you were a child. Look at it through a new lens of, I always give this analogy, a slingshot, and that it's pulling you back, and it might feel a lot of resistance, but once you let go and you allow it to truly be what it is, which is to help you, you end up soaring to this greater part of your relationship with yourself and someone else. And so that's always kind of where I go with that.
That's so beautiful.
That's for sure beautiful. We look at it also, I think we've been conditioned, especially in America, to think that discomfort is a bad thing and a sign that something's not right.
Amen.
And so in this kind of this age where culturally we are in this like on-demand, instant gratification, society, you think that when you meet the right person, it's just supposed to be rainbows and butterflies. And it's like, oh, we're coming together and it's great. It's discouraging people to dig in and find and get comfortable in the uncomfortable, right? It's like, so for us, it's been very much like you said, it's like, oh, okay, we're growing right now. But people don't like to grow because they don't like pain. And pain and growth are synonymous. You can't have growth without discomfort or pain.
Right.
But we don't think about that in relationships. We love it in the gym. We're like, oh, no pain, no gain, I'm growing. Oh, that was a great workout.
Yeah.
God forbid it touches our lives. We're like, no, it's not right. And we run away.
And then the comparison happens, right? Where we look at other couples on Instagram or whatever it might be, or other people, and their lives look so phenomenal.
I can't stand those Instagram couples. And like somebody out there might accuse the four of us of being those couples. But I try to balance it with some of the realness of like what it is. Yeah. Because it's like.
No, you do it.
Yeah, and you all do it as well. But it's like, I don't trust those Instagram. Don't trust the models. Don't trust any of them. Don't trust the couples because it's just not real. It's just not real.
Right. And what are you saying about, it is work. I mean, you can't expect two very unique individuals to just come together without having to sort through all the stuff that actually makes it work.
I have a question for you all. How are you? Because our kids are older. Thank God.
How old are your kids?
In quarantine.
5 and 2.
5 and 2.
In quarantine.
5 next week.
One of my girlfriends, her and her husband right now, she calls me and she was hiding in the closet the other day. And she was like, I can't tutor these kids. Like, I need to send them to somebody's school right now. And I was like, I don't know how parents are doing this. I just am wondering how you two are doing it in this
That's
moment.
all, Emily.
That's very sweet of you to ask. It's been hard.
Yeah.
It's been so hard.
She's got 3 kids. I'm the third.
and then we decided to get a puppy in the middle of all that. But it's hard because we have so much that we want to do. There's so much that we are. There's so much more to us than just being parents. Of course, we love also parenting, and we love that we've been able to connect with our kids, that they have been able to connect with each other a lot more. But it's challenging because it's 24/7. And at this age, they need their butts wiped. They need to get a crayon out of their nose. They need to it's constant.
Not jump up something. They need daddy all the time because daddy's not available.
Yeah, that's been hard for them to understand that balance of like, okay, so daddy is home now, but he's not available. He's behind that door working. And then little Maxwell, he's 2.5. It's easier with Maya. But for Maxwell, our 2-year-old, he just goes and bangs on the door and he cries and he wants daddy so bad.
That's hard, man. That's really hard because I've got a lot of dad guilt for sure. Because I'm like, I'm here, but I'm not. And I just don't want him to spend his, like, I'm worried that he's going to think about me as he gets older, and he's going to remember always banging on something or me being out of reach. And that's hard for me because I feel like psychologically I'm creating this father-son relationship, that's just, and I'm like, I don't know. And I don't know what to do because I'm like,
you do know what to do because you'll stop everything that you're doing and you'll put him in the car and you guys go and drive to the airport and they look at airplanes landing. But believe me though, he will remember those moments.
That is what he's going to remember.
You will feel that presence and that effort that you put in. So,
and also like what he's going to remember, and having older kids. So now we're on the other side. Like our 23-year-old has moved back in during the quarantine, which we were like, what the hell? But like, we had a conversation the other night, and like some of the things that literally we're talking about this concert that I took him and his friend to, and I thought I was the worst parent that night because I had gotten, it was our first real kind of like 9-year-old, I'm taking you to a concert and you're kind of doing stuff. And I got so drunk and had to, I think it was like my first time going out again that I like was like, oh my gosh. And I was like hammering them back while they were having fun, not realizing that I was having too much to drink. And then the concert ended, the lights went off, and I was like, oh crap, I am drunk. And my kid and best friend are right in front of me. And I remember walking out of there being embarrassed, that I'm like embarrassing them. I told them that we went to a park across the street because I was like, I need to sit in the park because this is before Uber. And I was like, I need to sit here until someone comes and picks us all up. And so I tried to get us ice cream and all this stuff. And I was slurring, and I swore in my mind to this day that he's been thinking about drunk dad. And when we talked,
he had the best time ever.
Only thing he remembered was dad took us to a concert and then took us to a park
and got ice cream.
He remembered none of the other stuff. And I realized, I'm saying this to you in that moment of like, what he's remembering is that, yes, he banged, but dad did answer the door later. It might not have come when he thought it was supposed to come, but dad answered the door. And I think another lesson that I learned from my conversation with my son is like, I wish I would have talked to him in that moment, because even though they're young, they don't need to know everything. But if I would have just been like, hey, daddy's working, but I'm always here for you. I love you. And if you really need me, I will stop. And I'm sure you're having those conversations. It will relieve some of that dad and mom guilt we feel of like, talk to them. They're little beings. They know how to respond. But don't feel that guilt. I just want to say that to you. Be a little bit more vulnerable and be a little bit more patient with yourself. So,
I appreciate it. It does. I take that. We're working through it. All right. I'm flipping it. I'm flipping the script. I'm going back to so the one thing I actually wanted to know early on, and we kind of jumped over it. So we have been really confronting our privilege and racist tendencies in history in our house. Mm-hmm. And it has been a journey. It is, and it will be. It's kind of like, it's funny when you think that you're fairly evolved in one way and you realize how you're just not, right? And I'm just curious, on top of the pandemic, all of it, how is that kind of coming into your relationship while it's also Pride Month? And you're all, it's like, there's just so much. And I'm just curious for you two, what you're feeling.
Well, for us, it didn't start with George Floyd. It's been an ongoing, as an interracial couple.
I mean, the minute that I got into, so Ian's the first white guy I've ever dated. I've never dated a white guy before. And it was not because I had a prejudice against white guys. It was because I was nervous that a white man would not understand my cultural experience, and I would spend my relationship consistently explaining. And one of the things that attracted me to Ian, which I think is what a lot of people who are not African-American or of color are starting to do, which is so important and should be highlighted, is he educated himself. So when I came into this, he was consistently using the Googler, and he'd be like, I just Googled this, and, is this correct? And what I appreciated was the effort of learning, because empathy only comes through education. So the more you're educated about somebody, the more you can be empathetic to their experience. But if you don't educate yourself, then you don't ever, the empathy never comes, the conversation never comes. And people think, well, I have to be awoken by some tragedy to educate myself, but you don't, and that's what is happening right now. So as Ian said, in our house, we've always talked about it, because I was very clear from early on, if I'm going to be in a relationship and I'm raising 2 Black boys and a Black man, you have to be aware, if you're going to have any interaction with my kids, and if they're ever going to call you stepdad, which they do now, they call them pops, you're going to have to be aware of what it is for their experience. Because I don't want you to be confused of why I'm sitting down and having certain conversations. And so it's been good. But what I think is another step outside of education, which I would implore most white people is you don't have to make just grand gestures. Some of the best things that I love, and I love when Ian does this, is we all have that uncle, cousin, sister, brother, coworker who is not racist. We understand that they might benefit from a racist system, but their hearts are not really racist, because we know what racists look like. They might have prejudice that they were taught as a child that got lodged in their subconscious that is realized at some of the most inopportune times, but I don't think they're racist. And I think it's about having conversations right now with those people where before we got annoyed with them and we're like, oh, I can't deal. I'm not engaging anymore. I'm done with you. It's those individuals that calling them and saying, hey, let's talk, without attacking them, is where we start to see the real education, empathy, and growth happening. And so he does it all the time. He has family members or friends that will say something.
That took work on my behalf, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been times in my past, and as white people, we're in spaces where we hear other white people say things that make us a little uncomfortable. But the truth is, unless you speak up and challenge the person, not challenge as a confrontation, but start a dialogue to make them realize what they just said is completely inappropriate, wrong, and why. But it took me some time to get there.
And it makes sense. And this is the thing that I want white people to know. And I say this all the time. Y'all didn't have to talk about race. There's no conversation to talk about race. And I can be, through my training and through being empathetic and really being thoughtful, I understand if you grew up in a space. So I grew up in a household where I'm the youngest of 4 sisters. So I grew up in a space where I was consistently talking and discussing women's issues. But I have another friend who only grew up with brothers and never talked about women's issues. And so if you're not growing up in a space where you have to talk about these things, why would you ever know how to challenge someone in that space? So like for me, when I hear men talking about certain things about women, I don't jump into, hold on, can we chat about that? Because that was kind of like not cool, whatever. I just know it because it's ingrained in me. And that's where, white people are getting to now. They're starting to say, oh, I see something, so let me challenge and talk to somebody. And also that conversation doesn't have to be one big conversation. It could be something as like, that's crazy what you just said. Walk away. And then the next day when you're having lunch, say, oh, you remember yesterday when you said this? Oh my God. It can be something. It doesn't have to be a confrontation because you can actually make it. And I think that's what I want to encourage a lot of white people to do right now is to go to all your secret white people meetings, because I'm convinced that there's a secret white people meeting that he goes to. Y'all are sending some telegraph, or no, I'm joking. This is all jokes. But I'm just like, have those conversations, because that's where I know to be true from studying history is where the change happens. It's not those people who are so far right that they're like, I hate black people and, immigrants are this or that. Those people are a tough grab. But there are so many people that are stuck right there in the middle that work with African Americans who don't want to see somebody die in the street.
Who voted for Obama.
That are just like, hold on, maybe we can help you to unravel some of these things so that you can start to sew together a new foundation and fabric in your heart and soul. And I think that's where the mini conversations come from. So that's what I would say about the movement we're in right now.
That's so great. And I think also when we get to that place, that's when this becomes not a moment, but a movement, right? Which is what people are talking about now, because we'll hear about it. We will be in this place for a while, but it'll be less and less and less. That's just what happens. And we need to keep going. We cannot stop.
I would say that this is the first time in my recollection where, and a lot of people post things to make themselves feel better on social media, but this is the first time that I've ever seen any white people on any of my feeds say, hey, we're the problem. We need to start solving the problem, not black folks. And so, like you said, it's going to be a tough, long plow, but hopefully these seeds that you're starting to see of white people, hopefully maybe they'll start doing the dialogue that we're just talking about.
I'm going to challenge you on something. Oh, couple argument coming, not argument. I'm going to challenge something for you and for white people. Yes, it's important for white people to understand that they were born into a system that they benefit from. But for me, for this to truly be a movement and not a moment, I do think white people need to stop saying, I'm the problem. Because if you say I'm a problem, anytime you start referring to yourself in negative-based or fear-based language,
I'm the solution.
Switch it to something positive. Because what happens is that it's going to, first of all, turn a whole subsector off who's like, I didn't create these problems. I never owned a slave. I've never had a family member who ran for Congress. Like, I didn't have these things. I grew up poor. They don't understand the system. So it's like when you're saying white people are all the problem, you have to understand from their ears. It's like, if I grew up poor and I didn't have access to certain things and I didn't get this and, I've still been beaten down, I don't understand how I'm the problem. But when you switch the language to saying I'm white and I can be part of this solution, it allows people to say, oh, I actually have some power to influence things, to be the solution, to create change. And so I just want to challenge that shift in language because that's where my mindset goes. Because every time I hear white people on social media saying they're the problem, I'm like, oh, this ain't going to turn out good. This is not going to turn out good. Start figuring out that you're part of the solution so that we can work together.
It's positive psychology. I love that. It's actually really helpful because it also, saying we're the problem, part of the problem, then triggers the guilt and the shame. Yeah. And you can't, real change doesn't come from that, right? It's like you got to fight for something. Yep. And what we've been talking about a lot is like, how do we make sure this doesn't become a fad or a trend or, because at some point there's a critical mass where a lot of people that we see on our timelines will start posting things because they know if they don't, they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you're doing it from the wrong place then, because you never want to be on like the wrong side of history when you're like in that semi-woke millennial kind of space. So it's like, okay, well, let me see, what is that person saying? Okay, let me put that in my own words. And that doesn't last. Nope. It's just people are just going to start waiting for the time when they can start posting pictures of their animals again. Yep. Or like start posting pictures of their vacation. And they're just going to be like looking at their watch, be like, this movement's been 3.5 weeks, guys. Like, and even just like with the loving law, right? We just had the anniversary of that, like, and how long has the civil rights movement been happening? And here we are. How long have slaves existed? And here we are. This is not going to even probably be solved in our lifetime. So this can't be a 3-week type of mentality. And one of my friends was very clear with me and was like, this is not a sprint. It's not a marathon. This is a Tough Mudder. This is a Ironman. And it's all of these things rolled into one. And all of us white people have to understand that, that it's like, there's going to be bumps. It's going to be messy. We're going to say the wrong things. And so long as we're like, we don't like respond to feedback in a negative way, we're like, okay, just kind of like a marriage. It's like, ooh, I did that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me see if I can be better. That's how I think we as white people probably need to be thinking about this.
100%. You need to put a t-shirt together, and if not, I'm going to do it, that says, racism is not a sprint, it's a Tough Mudder. Because literally, I think it's such a clear picture for people to realize, like, you're going to get exhausted, there's going to be fatigued, you're going to feel everything that Black folks have been feeling for years, and all you got to do is just keep living and keep trying. And that's why I try to give sustainable solutions, like, talk to that one person. Because if you can affect one person, then that person will then change their mindset to affect another person. And that's where we see. And then they're going to vote differently. And then you're breaking down the system. And then maybe that might inspire their kid to say, I want to run for office. And that kid will then be going into office. It's not we're immediately going to change. Some things we can stop immediately. But for the most part, when it comes to systemic issues, which is what racism is, it's going to take years upon years to dismantle. And by being patient with ourselves and taking small steps that will lead to the long journey is how we get there.
It's been so incredible. I feel like it's been therapy. You guys are such bright lights. Just talking to you both, and your smiles and your love is contagious. There's so much we didn't even get to talk about, from your re-proposal in quarantine. I mean, congratulations.
I mean, how do you have an engagement ring in quarantine?
He lost his ring. That's only what prompted the engagement. He lost his ring.
In quarantine, too.
I mean, I didn't leave the house.
I don't know where that ring is, but somebody just got a cute diamond ring if they ever find it.
Real quick, if you guys could just talk to one couple out there who's watching this and maybe having a hard time, maybe struggling in their relationship, maybe going through a breakup, whatever it is, if you guys could just talk to one couple and give them any reassurance or love, what would you say to people right now?
Well, I would say that in any relationship, you have to start with yourself first. The relationship of self is most important. So the more I'm clear about me, the more I love me, and the more I understand what I need, and the more that he does those things for himself, or you do those things for yourself and with your partner, is where you come to the relationship with clarity. And with clarity, you can have better conversations. And with clarity, you can love each other.
Yeah, better communication.
Yeah. And so it's something that I just want people to know that that's where it starts. And then secondly, you have to really ask yourself, is the conversations and the communication in this relationship making me happy? If there's a bit in there that's making you happy and you feel like that happiness is worth it, then allow yourself to grow through those hard moments so that you can find yourself on the other end of those happiness. Because as we all know, those dark moments don't last forever. But what I do love is waking up and knowing I have somebody who I can trust wholeheartedly, who is there to support me and who I can support. And those moments are worth more than those little arguments about who's driving, what did you say to the kids, when did you not do this? They're so more important. And when we're old and gray, I don't think I'm going to think about any of those arguments. I'm going to remember this moment right now where the minute I started talking, Ian put his hand on my right thigh and started to squeeze it, which he always does, just gently to let me know he's with me and that he loves me. And those are the moments I remember.
I love that.
Yeah.
First of all, we want to be added to your couple's dinner parties.
Done.
We're gonna have a 4-way text exchange so that you can text Ian when we're in a fight, and I'll text Karamo for emotional support.
Perfect.
And we're just in love with you two, and we're so grateful that you took the time today to be with us. We know it's crazy, and you're doing a lot, promoting the show, planning a wedding, being fathers. It's a lot going on right now, so we just appreciate your time.
And if I could just take a moment to say thank you for you, Justin, having this platform. I told you before, when you called me and said, to be honest, I was like, yes. I was like, I watched this. Your conversations about vulnerability, about loving ourselves as men, and now in this couple space is what the world needs. It's where the healing begins. And so I'm just so thankful for your voice. And I'm thankful for you, Emily, because we all need that person who holds us up. And you are the reason that he has the opportunity. And so thank you for you being you, because if you were like, forget this, then, he might.
No, I couldn't do anything without her. It's incredible how much she can hold. But Carly, I mean, look, you and we're going to have a talk after this because we need to do some stuff together.
I'm down.
I think you got to be a bigger part of Man Enough. You're just everything. Both of you are everything that this show stands for. Thank you guys so much. And also a very special thank you to our sponsors, The Art of Shaving, who, God, I wish I could. By the way, can I just say something? Speaking of Art of Shaving, I know how on point, Cromwell, your beard is always.
Appreciate it.
It made me insecure. So right before I got on, I was like, his beard's going to look so good. Yep. And I tried to adjust mine. And I realized, I was like, wait, when did I grow up? My beard was so thick, and I tried to adjust the lines like yours. And
It's a pretty bad job, actually.
It's not good.
From here, I gotta tell you, from here, we can't tell. It looks good from here.
It looks good from here.
Art of shaving. I need art of shaving right now.
One of the things for guys to know is like literally, if you're shaving your neck, you put your finger on your Adam's apple, the tip of your finger, and that's where the line should start.
Ah, really?
Yeah, that's the. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No,
well, it was. I'm too high.
Yeah.
But I have a calic here. I don't know. It's weird. I have this weird like circle thing here. Anyway, we don't have to get into all that.
I'm fascinated now.
But no, Art of Shaving's been awesome. And then the day after they closed all their shops, they were the first to close their shops. They turned their Instagram into a like at-home barber, like teaching men how to like cut their hair and do barber stuff. So thank you, Art of Shaving, for making this possible. You two, I love you both. Thank you for doing this with me. This was fun. We gotta do more couples episodes. This is awesome.
I loved it. You guys are the best. Thank you.
And finally, if you are in a relationship that maybe isn't healthy and is toxic, if you are somebody who is struggling with domestic abuse and you don't know who to call, we're going to put the number on the screen right now. It is 800-799-7233. Just know that if you don't feel safe, there is help. Okay.
If I can answer that, Justin,
please.
A lot of people, when they hear domestic violence, they only think of heterosexual couples. And actually, some of the statistics show that same-sex couples actually experience the highest domestic violence because when police officers and firemen come to the homes of same-sex couples, they don't respond the same way as if it was a male and a female. They assume that's part of that toxic masculinity. We can have a whole other conversation about that. But it's two guys, you're fighting it out, whatever. It's two girls, you're just having a catty fight instead of realizing it's domestic abuse. And so if anybody who is in the LGBTQ plus community also is hearing this, there's also resources for you on that same number, and you should call because you don't deserve to be in a domestic violence relationship just because you're in a same sex or same gender relationship.
Thank you so much for adding that, Cromwell.
Yeah.
You guys, this is amazing. I so appreciate you. We're going to talk soon, and thank you all for watching Man Enough. See you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.